Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Baitman Live. If you're not watching live, welcome back. Thank you for listening. We had a great show last week, and I got some new blood here. Never been on the show or the stream here. Welcome in Mr. Robert G. from East Tennessee.
How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Well, not a problem, Robert. When the Elite Series launched their schedule this year and they showed all the rookies and everything, I always check everybody out. And I didn't recognize your name, but I saw
Yeah.
it was you're from East Tennessee. And my buddy, Matthew McKee over there, McKee Outdoors, he was
Yeah.
talking you up. And I did a little research, and then I seen you wearing a lot of orange and white and said, you know what? I already got a guy I'm rooting for. Because
Thank you.
if he's for the Vols, I'm for
Oh
the
yeah.
Vols, and it's all worked out. So
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you came on, and dude, you had an awesome run the last few events, and you showed out there at Fork and some other places too.
Yeah. It was a pretty good year. I only had really one horrible day, which really kind of put a damper on my whole season. But if I would have just made better decisions, maybe got a little more rest before that day, I probably would be in the top 10 in AOY this year. I fished great all the other tournaments. Like I'm not. I feel like good at all in Florida, and I got two checks in Florida, like a 28th and a 40th. So I
Right.
mean, that was freaking a win for me coming out of Florida with two checks, like good solid tournaments. I mean, because usually at the Harris chain, I've had like those. I've only had two good tournaments there out of like five or six. So just going there and getting some confidence really kind of got the ball rolling. But then, a Wheeler, I had a just never found anything good there and missed the top 50 cup by 1 ounce. So I mean, I definitely could have probably cashed a check in all nine, but I'm not going to complain. I made pretty good a lot amount of money for not winning a tournament this year. For
I,
me
th-
at least,
I think you also made a lot of fans. I think
that's
you,
good.
yeah. I
That's good.
mean,
I feel like I kind of warmed up to the camera as the season went on because I'm not very, I'm a rookie and I haven't really been on live much before. So I got more comfortable with it as the season went on.
yeah, I think that's a learning curve. A lot of guys don't ever talk about is the rookies and guys that not used to being on camera, being on Bass Live or other things, and what to say. And I don't want to look like an idiot, or
Yeah,
I want to make sure I catch a fish when I'm on this.
for
And
sure.
sometimes that don't work out, but you
Yeah.
definitely got plenty of airplay the last few events. I was going to ask you this. I'll go ahead and lead into this. Do you think your experience fishing there in East Tennessee? I'm assuming you fished a lot of Douglas, Cherokee,
hmm
Holston, places like that, and Loudon. Do you think that helped you out when you went up north fishing for these smallmouth out in open water?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like East Tennessee is very diverse in all types of different ways to catch fish, and I mean, there's a lot of smallmouth in all the lakes where I live, so that definitely helped. And the smallmouth where I live are so much harder to catch, so that definitely, I guess, gained my confidence of catching the northern smallmouth versus the southern smallmouth where I live, just because they're a lot trickier to get to get to eat, and they kind of act similar in their ways. But so I mean, I have a ton of fun every time I go up north,
Yeah,
except if the wind blows.
yeah. So, how much different is it fishing those Great Lakes? I know you have a big old bass boat. I think it's a
hmm
Skeeter. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I have a Phoenix.
Oh,
Phoenix.
okay, Phoenix. I'm sorry. I should have done my research.
Oh, it's
Uh,
all good.
Big Phoenix, Big Skeeter, they're big bass boats.
Yeah.
How much different though is it fishing are those Great Lake waves compared to like on the Tennessee River or Loudon when the wind gets to rolling?
Oh my gosh, it ain't even a comparison. I mean, I could fish the windiest day of the year on Fort Loudon and Tellico and only need a dang 19-foot bass boat. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't get, but at the widest point, a quarter of a mile wide on those lakes. So it's never really anything bigger than a 2-footer, honestly. And I mean, up there, shoot, I'm still getting used to it. I don't really enjoy that.
Yeah, we
I
saw
mean,
one of the Johnson brothers get seasick. That didn't happen to you though, did it?
yeah, no, I never even went to the lake at the St. Lawrence.
Yeah. So what we want on one part of what we do on our stream, Robert, we answer fan questions and all kinds of stuff. And I got one right here, and this looks interesting, so we'll go ahead and ask it. From Matt W. Fish, and says, "Ask G what he thinks about the Bucky Filet Pro Shops."
I think that's an incredible idea. I mean, Bucky's great gas station. Although I do have a bone to pick with Bucky's, they don't sell Mountain Dew, so that
No, they don't.
Total buzzkill. But Bucky's, other than that, is insane. I mean, I always stop at one of them when I see one. But I wish they sold Mountain Dew. But Chick-fil-A is also the best fast food on the planet. I mean, it's the Lord's chicken, obviously. So, and Bass Pro Shops is freaking sick. I can't go in there and come out without spending $200. So, if there was a Bucky's, Chick-fil-A, and Bass Pro all in one, I mean, a lot of people would go broke.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. You know, let me pull a couple mil from my savings account and let's make that happen.
I mean, there's a tackle store / gas station and around where I live near Matt McKee over in, I think it's near Madisonville, Lawnmower area. It's called Sloan's Hardware, and it's pretty sick. I mean, if y'all are ever in the area, you need to check it out.
That sounds like a good place to find some old school baits you might not could find anywhere else.
Sick. So it is a BP gas station, not as big as a Bucky's, Bass Pro Shops, and a hardware store, Ace Hardware, all in one.
Wow.
Sick.
Well, there used to be a place. I'm sure you don't know Kentucky. Most of my viewers don't, but there's a place here in Greenville, Kentucky. It was called Uncle Lee's, and Uncle Lee's was half hardware store, half sporting goods store. So you could go in there and you could get some roofing nails and walk out there and go get you some 6XDs if you want to on the same trip. So I'm sure a lot of guys were doing house projects for the wife just so they go to Uncle Lee's and buy a bunch of tackle.
That's how Sloan's is. It's sweet.
So let's talk about your roots here, East Tennessee. First of all, guys, if you don't know, the guy wears orange and white.
Yeah.
So you fished for the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, correct?
Yes, I did.
Now, was that a bright spot for them? Because I would say when you fish, we might have had one of those football coaches I didn't really care for.
So, yeah, I mean, I definitely focused a lot on fishing while I was at UT instead of going to the football games.
Yes.
Because my first 3 years of college, we won a combined total of 2 SEC games. My first year in college, Butch Jones was his last year. Then I was there for the Pruitt era, and then my last year, or maybe last 2 years, because I went to college for 5 years, was with Pruitt, and that's when everything started turning good. Or not Pruitt, freaking
Hype. Yeah.
But yeah, I was there for Pruitt. Yeah, it was brutal.
Well, just so you know, I fired Butch Jones multiple times via social media and Jeremy Pruitt, but I'm glad we got a really good team now. And so that leads me to this, Robert Neely. My daughter, she wants to interrupt. You have a couple kids, you won't get no free time. But that leads me to this. So we made Elite 8 in basketball. Amazing year under Pastor Rick. We won a national championship in baseball with Coach Tony V. You made the Classic. Who knows what we're going to do in football? I feel like the playoffs are coming.
Hopefully, 12-team playoffs. So
Tennessee's on the rise. It may just be destiny, Robert. You go to the Bassmaster Classic, something special may happen because you've been wearing that orange and white. Call me conspiracy theory. Maybe I'm a homer, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I feel like I've Tennessee, something about them pretty much my whole life. Because, what sucks to say is I was born literally 7 days after the Vols won the 1998 national championship. 7 days.
You make me feel really old right then.
So, to be born right when we were the national champions in football, and then growing up on the decline, and then get to college and we're at dang rock bottom. But now we're coming out of the hole. It feels good. It feels good to be a Tennessee Vol now. You know,
It does, man. So, I remember watching that national title game, my mom coming in my bedroom and saying, "Hey, you need to go to bed." And we just scored our first touchdown. And my dad comes in, cracks the door, and says, "Go ahead. You can keep watching it. Let me know who wins in the morning." And I remember T. Martin rearing back, hitting Peerless Price there in the fourth quarter for the go-ahead touchdown.
God, I wish I
And
was alive for that.
it was sick. I remember waking my dad up in the morning and telling him. And my dad got me into the whole bass fishing, baits and stuff, and being a
Yeah.
Tennessee fan is just a byproduct of it. But I think it's cool, that UT has a fishing team, and you might be the first guy I've ever had from the UT fishing team on here. Actually, I know you are. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
how much in that college experience did that set you up though for fishing the opens and then going to the Elite Series? Did traveling to new and different lakes, how much did that help you out?
Oh, I mean, that was the only reason why the transition worked for me. Because honestly, if I would have just fished BFLs from the time I was 17 to 22, 23, instead of fishing college, I don't think I would have been halfway as prepared as I was fishing in college for those 5 years. Getting to travel to all these different lakes. I mean, I've probably fished the whole entire from Oklahoma over. I fished about every state in college, and I probably fished 7 of the 9 lakes we went to this year on the elites in college before. You know what I mean? So the Bassmaster College Series really prepared me for the opens, is what I'll say. It didn't prepare me for the elites just because everybody on the elites is a stone cold killer, and you can't be prepared for that until you get there.
Right.
But the opens, being able to kind of find your own fish and fish around 200 plus boats, college series helped very well. Like, I pretty much just kind of went out there and attacked it like I was fishing my 6th year of college, but on the opens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just like another college tournament for me, just by myself. So it wasn't much different. Like, I didn't get all kind of nerves traveling because I'd done it before.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. Something a lot of guys overlook. A lot of the guys from the opens, whether the rookie's young or whatever age, when you fish those college series, it's not like you're just fishing against 80 boats. These college tournaments have as many boats as the opens, and you got to learn to manage fish, manage areas, and you got to be able to fish around people. And man, going in the opens, dude, there's so many good fishermen, and they're all fighting for 8 spots.
No doubt. Yes. It's crazy. It's
Did you, when you made the Elite Series or fished the opens, everyone's goal is to make the Elite Series, but were you even surprised at yourself? Like, dude, I made it. Like, I can't believe this is happening.
Oh, heck yeah. I was surprised. I mean, I was going to give myself about 3 years to try, and I didn't expect it at all. Like, at all. Like, I was just like, yeah, it's my first year. Whatever happens, happens. If I finish dead last, at least I know I suck. You know what I mean? But, I mean, it just happened is all I can say. I mean,
I feel like you're kind of glowing just a little bit. Like, you talked about the Bassmaster Elite Series. It's not just like half the field's good. They're all stone cold killers, whether they're forward-facing gurus, whether they're flipping gurus, deep cranking masters, sight fishing masters. It's a mix. Everybody's really good. There's nobody that's just bad. Do you feel, did your nerves that first event, were you just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going on? Because you seem really cool, calm, and collected by the end of the season. Like, I'm used to this. I know what I got to do.
I was very just nervous and like looking around at blast off that first day. I don't even know how to explain what I was feeling. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those where you're like, it felt like I was about to run through the dang tee at Neyland Stadium, being my size and stature, and go try to tackle Terrence Cody or freaking somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like I was way out of my league and like, what the heck am I doing out here? You know what I mean? That's my thought. But then, I mean, that first day just gave me so much confidence because I caught 30 pounds my first day ever on the Elites and absolutely just trashed them. Like, one of my best days of fishing I've ever had. So, I mean, that just kind of gave me confidence throughout the rest of the year that I could actually somewhat compete, you know?
Yeah. You know what, though? So, like I told you before stream, I filmed stuff from Mark Menendez. He's a good friend. After that first tournament, I said, dude, I like that Robert G guy. And he turned around and said, can catch him. That's all. Just that's and with a real serious face, like, you need to watch out for the guys that can catch him. And I said, well, I noticed he was a Tennessee guy. And he said, yeah, I knew you'd like that. But yeah, that's crazy. But then Mark said, you might really like him because y'all are about the same height. And I laugh and joke about it, but I'm not blessed in the vertical department. And
me neither. I mean, if I was, I wouldn't be bass fishing.
That's right. I'd be doing something else.
I'd be in the MLB.
Yeah. Yeah, I always said, man, if I got these kind of skills and I'm 5'4" playing football and baseball, imagine me being 6 foot. I'd have a couple $1 million contract. But I will say, I feel like being low, center to the earth, a little bit better in that rough water. I see these tall guys; they're all tossing around and stuff. I can be braced really good. And I'm low to the ground. I feel like I can roll cast and skip as good as some of these guys.
It's to me, in fishing, it's great to be short, other than sight fishing.
This is true.
Because I honestly feel like they should have a rule where, you know how there's a ban on
A-rigs?
like on your front deck to
sight
fish?
You can't have a
can't have a platform. I think there should be a rule where you take the tallest guy on the Elites, say, I don't know who it is.
Oh, we froze up.
5'6", so he's got a foot advantage over me to be able to look into the water.
Yeah.
And I truly think that short guys should be given the opportunity to stand on something to make up for the height advantage. That
is an interesting concept. I might have to clip that one for the gram. Yeah. It's an unfair advantage if you're born tall and it's a sight fishing event. I get it. Well, let's talk about your fishing style. I know there's guys that we know the debate. Forward facing. Some love it, some hate it, some want it banned, some don't care. People say, oh, Robert G, he'll hate it if forward facing's banned. But I have some pretty good sources that say Robert G is actually a ledgehammer and a pretty dang good shallow water fisherman. So did you kind of adapt to forward facing, or were you weren't just a guy that put it down, said I'm learning the computer? You evolved with it?
No, I evolved completely. Like last year in the Opens when I qualified for the Elites, I did not catch a single bass using a jig head minnow.
Wow.
Like not one single bass I weighed in the entire year or even cold was on a jig head minnow. I didn't even have it tied on, but for like one tournament. So I kind of evolved into it just because it's kind of how the sport has evolved the past few years. That's kind of how I am as a fisherman. I like to evolve with the changes and baits of how it is. Like I feel like each year I have a different trend on what I do well on. Like for the past 4 years, I look back at all my great tournaments I've had, and it's been all over the board.
Yeah.
Like craziness. Like just something different every time.
Robert G might just be the ultimate junk fisherman.
I am. Yes. Completely. Yeah. No doubt. Like in college one year, I had great tournaments fishing for bedfish, even though I'm short. And another year, I caught them real well throwing a swim bait up shallow, like a couple tournaments. Another year, almost won a tournament on a buzz bait. Like
I love me some buzz baits.
Last year, I was a pure just ledge fisherman the whole year in EQs. Just doing what I do back home. It's kind of I just fished my strength the entire year last year, just fishing offshore structure. And this year, I mean, I like Demiki fishing because I live in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I
It's
threw
basically
it
the birthplace of the Demiki rig, Cherokee
literally.
Lake and all that.
So why would I not throw it if it shows itself available? You know what I mean? If I think it's going to be the deal, I'm going to do it. So it's not like I'm trying to go to every lake and throw a jig head minnow, even though it's freaking awesome. But if it presents itself, I'm definitely going to.
Adam Morris says here on Facebook, thanks for joining, Adam. He says, ask G where the sneak hole at Norris Lake is. I think he's wanting some info.
I actually went to Norris yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never been there. What kind of lake is Norris? Is it?
It's similar to Smith Lake,
Okay.
other than it doesn't have Alabama spots, but it has smallmouth. And they're kind of the similar skinny, long fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of fish, but they're skinny and long. They don't look like St. Lawrence smallmouth. I know that because I probably caught 10 or so 18 plus inchers yesterday on Norris, and the biggest one barely was a 3-pounder, you know?
Yeah, well, where I live on Kentucky Lake, and dude, the smallmouth have exploded.
They have. That's
like
awesome.
So I talked to my fishing partner. He tore his lower unit up in the BFL.
Mm-hmm.
He said he did have a 5'6" largemouth, which we got some big largemouth too. The whole lake's coming back.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
But man, our smallmouth population, I'm really excited. The next month, once this water hits about 70 degrees,
yeah,
it's going to be Vixen, Repo Man, whatever top water you want to throw. And I'm
going to go out there too with John Garrett and have him put me on a spook bag.
Yeah. So I'm sure John's told you about the bars. Everybody fishes the bars down here, and I'm ready for it. John's a great guy too, and
for sure.
I was glad to see him get a blue trophy. Is there any who's the guys you like to hang out on the Elite Series, or do you like just?
Yeah, I have a little posse I run around with, and we room together. It's me, John Garrett, Logan Parks, and Cody Huff.
I've met Cody. So a cool Cody Huff story. He qualified for the Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm filming this little documentary thing with Menendez, and I'm on the boat dock. Dave Mercer just kind of interviewed and whatnot. I turn around, and Cody Huff is standing there. This is the first morning, the first day. Hands in his, yeah, he's basically, it was cold. He's shaking, but dude, he looked freaking like a deer in headlights, nervous. And I did a little video clip with him. He's like, man, I'm so excited to be here. He's like, I can't believe all this. I said, well, just go catch you some fish and it'll be all right. And dude had a pretty dang good bag the first day. Super nice guy. I like Cody. Matter of fact, I like to get him here on Baitman Live.
Oh,
he's a really good guy. So it sounds like you got a good crew to hang out with.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's been an awesome year being able to travel around, stay with those guys. We all made the Classic. We all finished top 25 in points. So, I mean, it was just a great year for the house.
Do y'all work together, or do y'all?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. And just so people that are listening to the stream realize, if you're fishing in the tournament, you can share information with guys in the tournament. And it's always been that way. I know that, it seemed like when it was people learned that the Johnson brothers shared information and shared money, people are like, oh, I never heard of that. Well, honestly, the guys that fish the tournaments, there's a lot of guys. I think David Mullins and Drew Benton and Drew Cook, they kind of do their thing. And there's several little groups of guys. And I'm all for that. I think that's fine. That's good camaraderie or whatnot. Yeah. Keeps you from getting on the water fisticuffs with each other, I guess. But I don't want to stay on just the fishing of the Elite Series too much. I know everybody wants to talk about it, but just a quick question. What was your favorite tournament that you had this year? Was it obviously everyone's going to say your top ones you got in the top ones, but did you have one that, man, I just had fun?
Yeah, the first one, Toledo Bend, where I got 4th place, and then Champlain, where I got 3rd place. Those were my favorite 2 tournaments of the year of just catching fish. I mean, I had a blast at those 2. Those were fun.
That Toledo Bend was a good one.
Yeah, that was probably that one, and Champlain were my 2 favorites for sure.
So here's a good question about fishing on lakes. Sean Dow says, Rob G, have you ever fished in South Texas?
I have not. The only Texas lakes I've ever fished have been Lake Fork, Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend, and Lake Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches is a sleeper. It's got some
Yeah.
giants in it. Todd Castledine probably won't want me saying that. Here's a question for Calvin Ward. And of course, this is forward facing related. And we'll get some of those questions because, man, dude, it's what we saw. And
Yeah.
for a guy that just learned it, you really picked it up well.
I mean, I've had it since Cody Huff whipped all our college butts into Toledo Bend in, I don't know, 2019 maybe. So I got it right after that. So.
Well, like I tell people, I'm not going to use a tool. I'm going to use a tool that makes my job easier. I won't want to use something that makes it harder, whether I like it or not. But Caleb asked, do you find, and this is a good question, do you find certain lakes are set up better for forward-facing sonar? And if so, is this due to current or the type of forge?
Yeah, there are lakes where forward-facing sonar is way more applicable, like Florida and the Tennessee River and the St. Lawrence River. Like the river, not Lake Ontario, but the St. Lawrence River. Like rivers and Florida and like lowland reservoirs where it's just real shallow across the whole lake. It's harder to use if you're going to just go out there and go scoping. They're more structure related, whether they're sitting on brush piles, rocks, or grass, something like that. They like to sit near something or docks or something. They're more of that kind of setup kind of fish. Whereas like a highland reservoir are definitely more scope oriented fish because those fish, the water's clear and there's a lot of bait in those lakes. So pretty much half the year they're out there swimming off the bank to go chase a shad school that they see from 100 to 150 foot away just because the water's so clear. So that's why those lakes are more scope friendly.
Yeah, I fished Lake Lanier years ago. And they're talking about fishing brush piles. I think, oh, this is awesome. You know, I love fishing brush piles. Kentucky Lake. Sure. They're fishing 80 foot of water brush piles. And I'm like, what? And they're fishing way over the top. They're burning spinner baits. Then they get on the 2D with the drop shot. And you watch the fish come up. And God made something that really makes sense to me now. He said, if we only knew how many fish were out here swimming around chasing bait that we don't see, we're probably driving over a ton of them. And now, with scope and not just live scope, but all the other technology, we got side scan, down imaging's gotten way better, mapping's gotten done. Now we're seeing a lot of these fish we just didn't realize were there.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, here's a cool. Go ahead, Robert. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, it's opened up the whole entire lake to fish instead of just continually fishing for the same fish and never getting to fish for the whole lake population.
Yeah. You know, you hear the argument that says, well, you're open up Pandora's box where fishing for fish that weren't meant to be fished for, they go for a refuge. Well, I'm telling you, I've started to see it happen here. One, these fish get used to it. They're not going to hang out there all the time.
No.
All your good old grandpa shallow holes are going to be opened up. New fish are going to move in there. So
no doubt.
And again, I'm not an anti-scoper. I'm not a pro scoper. I'm a fisherman. I like to catch fish.
I'm a fisherman too. I truly agree that probably in the next year that there will be a change, and what we're doing now is not going to be dominant at all.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that goes with scheduling, the timing you go to lakes and stuff.
I agree.
Let's be honest. If you go to Kentucky Lake right now, you're going to go, I thought this lake was fishing good.
Yeah.
If you go into March, April, best smallmouth lake in the South, period. It's a timing deal.
Exactly.
But you wait till October, these guys, it don't matter if you got a scope or not. It's all about finding the gizzard shad on those bars, throwing top water. You come in April, May, you've got to get out offshore and find these fish spawning on spawning flats, picking individuals.
That's kind of the deal about anywhere. Is you kind of gotta find them first before you can even use your scope.
Right. Here's a good question. We're going to get in some bait talk now. All right. What is your favorite crankbait from Jerry Houston?
DT6.
Okay. Why would DT6 is a really popular bait.
Yep.
Why is that your favorite?
I don't know. I mean, that's just the crankbait I've caught the most fish on probably in my life. Um, I mean,
That's
I
probably the
live,
most honest answer I'll ever get. Someone would usually go into scientific detail why it's so awesome, this DT6, but I like it
yeah,
because I've caught the most fish on it.
yeah. I mean, it's never failed me. Um, I mean, that used to be my deal from like January to April till they got on the bed. Is I was a hardcore cranker. I mean, I live on Fort Loudon, Cherokee, Douglas. I mean, there's prime time cranking. I mean, I got all the little balsa homemade crankbaits. But
Oh,
I mean, just
now we're
buying,
talking.
yeah, but the best store bought you can get anywhere crankbait to me is probably a DT6 or the new Berkeley Fritz side's pretty good too. And
Yep.
like these aren't even, I'm not sponsored by these companies. I'm just telling you how it is. Those are my favorite.
Dude, DT6 is a fish catcher.
It
I
is.
feel like everybody's gotten into the square bill craze is fine. But you hit the head for a mass produced balsa bait.
Yeah, I'm a balsa man for shallow cranking.
So you got any of those good East Tennessee baits?
Oh yeah, a little Petey.
Now we're talking. Baitman's got to dig into his little stash here. That right there is my
Yeah,
stash. I actually bought these online and I literally gave about $5 a piece for them.
no way.
Yeah, so I told you I sell on this app called Whatnot. Well, some dude bought a bunch of stuff from East Tennessee and had no clue what he had. And when he put them up there, and I saw this guy right here, and it said P on the side, and that's Sonny Reynolds. Sonny
Yeah,
McFarland. He did the little PT, and dude, I'm a balsa. This for the guys in the stream. That right there is
yeah.
a original little PT, and I've never seen one in this chartreuse blue color.
Me neither. That looks sweet.
And I believe this is a Sonny Reynolds bait too.
Yeah.
He didn't, but it's not a PD. It's a different bait. So let me ask you this: why are these balsa crankbaits so? I don't want to say dominant. Why are they so popular there in East Tennessee? I'm going to switch our view here.
To
Here we
me,
go.
it's just they're a little bit more finesse than like a regular 1.5 crankbait that's just banging and rolling on its side and just hunting. You know what I mean? They're
Mm-hmm.
more of a Shad Rap style kind of crankbait where they have a tight wobble and they deflect well, but kind of get hung up on the rock and then have an erratic action once they pop off. And that's really a huge deal around where I live is that hang and then free up. I mean, I've caught a lot of giants on that scenario right there.
Is there a certain color or setup you got to have when it comes to those balsa baits? Are you a
I throw
specific color guy?
I throw a glass rod.
Glass rod?
Yeah, for those shallow crank. When I shallow crank like that, like I really feel like it just loads up well and they get it great. Because I mean, treble hook baits, they're so hard to keep them pinned, especially now that I have to land them on the side of the boat. But I always throw 10-pound line. Sometimes I mess with 8, which is kind of scary. But I keep it simple. I only have like 5 colors probably I roll through, depending, and 3 of them are shad colors and 2 of them are crawl colors. And I feel like that's all I really need.
Now, are you doing this specifically in the spring, or do you? I
Yes.
like to throw that. Yeah, so I'll throw a flat side in late fall quite a
Oh
bit.
yeah, me too. Yeah, anywhere from probably late October to April 15th, I'd say, until they start making the lakes go back full. That's when I always have a crankbait tied on.
Man, there's so many good builders there in East Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have is the little Petey your favorite, or do you got some other kind of homemade on the download stuff you like to use?
Yeah, I've got some on the download stuff
Oh,
that I like to use, but I mean, honestly, back to Rapala again, Ott Defoe. I mean, he's basically mass producing all the good ones,
yeah.
dang near replicas of them. So I mean, people can buy them at the store now everywhere.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong. You told me you're a tackle junkie before here,
Mhm.
this is going with my tackle mind. People say, well, hard bait sales are down and all this, and I get that. You know, it's the way the techniques are going. But if you look at the internet, and especially like my streams and some other guys, there's a huge following for balsa baits.
Mhm.
TK Stanley and doing his deal painting Marty Burns, and dude, they can't paint enough of them fast enough. I still feel like forward facing or not, you're not ever going to kill that balsa crankbait. There's guys
No.
that just love it, and fish still bite it.
Yeah, they do. I mean, and I'm an offshore cranker too, so I can't say that's my absolute favorite crankbait because I also love a DT 16 and DT 20 and also a 6XD
Yep.
and an NXD. Those are my favorites. I mean, they're a close tie.
So I love a 6XD. I love the 6 cents deep divers, but the one crankbait I've won more money on Kentucky Lake, me and my fishing partner, was a Parrot DT16. There's something
Mm.
about that
Not
when
about
you're
a
deep
DT
crank,
16.
it's got that
Weird.
really tight wobble.
It's juice. Probably
Someone
shouldn't
asked,
even be saying this, but
yeah, go ahead, put it out there.
yeah. I mean, I did some cranking this weekend. Fished a local tournament with my buddy just out there because he wanted to go fish, and we went to Watts Bar and we did some old kneeling and reeling, and we caught, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 deep cranking still in August. It was fun.
David Fritz style. Or
Yeah.
no, that was Paul Elias did the nail
Paul
and reel.
Elias. Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, I feel like Paul Elias right now.
Yeah.
I had my
Do,
thing reel almost in the water.
so, all right. Bass Fanatic wants to know, do you ever use any OSP or do you ever use any OSP crankbaits?
Yes, I do.
I've never used their deep divers. I've used the shallow ones. Have you used the deep divers?
Yes, I've used them all. I got them all. I like, as much as y'all seen me on TV not cranking at all, I've got a absolute stack. Like if you see my boat from January to June, I have about 6 crankbait boxes in there stacked where you can't even fit another one in my box. You know what I
Jeez.
mean?
Yeah, this little
So I'm a crankbait fanatic, even though I
now
don't really throw them as much as I used to.
well, you just set yourself up for a spring version of Baitman Live, giving some
Yeah,
shallow cranking tips is what's going to happen. So you're going
no
to have
doubt.
to sort through the boxes and give us some spring cranking juice. Somebody asked, we talked about this before the stream, and said, Brad Crum, he's a good friend of mine. What's your favorite buzz bait and what's your setup? I
So
know you
I've
like
got
the buzz bait.
so I have two. I gotta say two. Um, and they have two different places in my arsenal. Um, my favorite clacking style buzzbait that's loud is a crockigator buzzbait with a head knock. You know, it's real loud, and there's a certain time of year where that loudness of the buzzbait really takes the fish off, and you can catch some absolute monsters,
I
six
like
to
it.
10 pounders
I
on
like
that
that
style of
crocodile.
buzzbait.
There's a
But
lot of guys that like that bait. Will never talk about it because they ain't
yeah,
sponsored by them. It's a
yeah,
really
it's
good buzz bait.
no, it is. It really is, and it just sets them off. You know, they absolutely flush it when they hit it. Like it's nasty the blow ups you get on that thing. But another bait is it's a local bait that I get at that bait store I was telling you about, the Bass Pro gas station.
They're
It's
fixing to
called
have a lot of business if this blows
yeah.
the Milliken podcast.
So it's called a Super G. It's not named after me, but it's called a Super G buzzbait. I probably couldn't be saying this, but it's a guy named Gary that makes them. Pretty sure that's his name, but he makes a great buzzbait. It's got the right little twang to it
Little
that fish
twang.
love. Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. I'm glad you said that there's a time and a place for a clacking buzz bait versus one that's got some twang to it.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like early season here, like I'll throw a buzz bait in the spring. Like
Yep,
when
that's what
guys are just
I
thinking
was
about
talking
flipping, I'll throw a buzz bait and I like them squeaking. For some
about.
reason, I get a lot of bites when they're squeaking. In the fall, later in the year, everybody's been throwing Vixens and Repo Man, stuff like that. I'll
Squeaker.
throw a buzz bait that's got a clacker and I feel it triggers them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Have
I
you?
feel like I throw a squeaker right when I start throwing a buzzbait, and then post spawn I'll pick up the clacker just because I don't know what it is. Those I feel like when they get around that spawn, they hate that loudness. And but then I mix back the squeak. I pretty much throw a squeaker more than a clacker, you know. But like this time of year, I'll bring back out the clacker because throwing it around grass and stuff, they absolutely cannot stand it. And then I'll transition back to the squeaker.
Pickwick Pirate says, I'm liking the new Teckle buzzbait. We talked
Yes,
about this one
yeah,
before
we
the
talked
stream.
about that.
I bought some from McKee Outdoors. It's,
Yeah,
it's in my top
great.
5.
Me too. It's
So,
yeah, grass buzzbait. It's the best.
are you a braid on your buzzbait, or are you throwing
Yeah,
heavy mono?
I'm a braid man. 30, 40 pound braid. 40-pound braid.
Let's see, a head clack. Or do you like a head clacker or a clacker on the wire? Because like the Teckle,
I
it
like them
clacks.
both. I
Gotcha.
like them both. I like the head clacker, like the Crocagator, and I also like the Booyah, just clacker buzzbait.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right, guys love bait questions, so you're gonna get bombarded. Joe Reynolds, what's up, Joe? What's your favorite plastic and way to fish it?
Like for the buzzbait, or
I guess he just wants to know your all-around favorite plastic.
um,
It must be.
that's
Yeah,
hard.
I like the eye roll. Like, okay, I got some secret, but I don't want to tell it.
Um, I mean, I feel like I got so many soft plastics. That's a tough one to choose.
All right, I'll make it easy for you. Everyone's going to ask. It's already been asked.
Texas rig bait or what?
Sure,
Like,
give me your Texas rig. Give me your best forward-facing minnow that you're using. I know you say that's not your.
I can't tell you that.
Oh man,
Come on now. But
sure.
my favorite soft plastic is probably a old monster. I mean, if I could catch them on any soft plastic, throwing an old monster in a brush pile and watching or feeling one absolutely knock slack into it. That's
Oh,
great.
there ain't
One
no
of my
bite like a
favorites.
big worm bite.
No, and then my other favorite soft plastic, I mean, traditionally was like a Bastrix or a Zoom swimmer. That
We might
hollow
be
body
brothers.
swim bait is pretty awesome to me. That's one of my favorite bites.
We might be brothers and don't know it
Yeah,
because that's my all-time favorite soft plastic is the
or like a
Bastrix.
like a Strike King one too. Peel the top layer of skin off.
Did you ever go to Watson's Marine and get any packs of Sexy Rexy?
No, I didn't.
You know, they had, I've got some up here. You had to get these, you know where Watson's is. He had this Bastrix special color made for him, and it was almost like, these are kind of faded a little bit, but it's almost like a Tennessee shad.
Yeah.
It had some blue glimmer flake in that yellow, and he would
Mm-hmm.
sell the snot out of them.
Oh yeah.
But man, those, I
Transition.
remember.
I transitioned from the Bastrix to the Zooms hard. Um, that's my favorite swim bait probably.
Now they don't even make the Zoom swimmer,
No.
but Bastrix is still made. New
Yeah.
owners.
Now I'm back on the Bastrix.
Yeah, dude, the guy that's on with Bastrix, he's got it right.
For sure.
Let's be honest, the guy that owned Bastrix, he got really old, and
Mm-hmm.
the quality control was kind of getting out of hand.
Yeah, that's why I transitioned to the
Yeah,
Zoom. I would buy a pack and the tail would all be like kinked up and they just wouldn't be usable.
right.
But then now they're good. Again.
Yeah, they are really good. See, I had some other questions I've seen on here. I did. So I'll ask you my own question. We'll go back to live scope because that's been popular, and I'm trying to ask for myself. What's more important, the bait or the jig head when you're scoping for these fish out there? I've heard conflicting stories. I'm going to know from your point of view.
Honestly, I kind of feel like it's the weight of the jig head and how it's moving through the water more than the bait. Because
Okay.
I mean, I've seen a lot of guys catch them on just regular Z2s, like Jay Shakurit. The
Mm-hmm.
only bait he scopes with the jig head minnow is a Z2, and he can catch them anywhere in the country, no matter how pressured the lake is, like Smith Lake, and just whack them on it. And it's because he can, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, he's just freaking good. He's that
Yeah.
freaking good at it. You know, he can cast better than it's like Greg Hackney flipping or somebody like that flipping, like Andy Morgan. They can put their bait up in a crack of a dock way better than me. You know what I mean? Like guys are just better at casting and presenting their bait to the fish than others.
Yeah, Jay's man, he's a good fisherman. Shout
He
out
is.
to I can't really pronounce his last name, dude. I got a Kentucky education, so
Yeah,
that hurts me.
I'm pretty positive it's called Shakurit, but it looks like Preserkira.
It does. It looks like he's from the Middle East, but
Yes,
I got a lot of guys asking out about this Depth Somatica Sakamata shad, and it's
Sakamuchi.
I don't know whatever it is. Again, I'm not spelling bee pronunciation
Yeah.
champion. Um, what is it about that bait? Do you think that makes it so good? Is it because of the the material, the plastic, the weight of it? Does it have any wild action, or is it um, just different?
I think I don't know. I mean, I think Fujita was the first person to ever broadcast how to really catch him good on a jig head minnow, and that was the bait he was throwing. So everybody now is just all bought into that's the bait you got to have.
Mm-hmm. Have you thrown the dice baits? Like,
I
is this a legit
I've
real
got
thing? Is the dice baits real? Matt
have
Robertson texted me and said, "Get me some."
yeah, I've got to play around with it. There's a guy now that sells them to Matt and Matt McKee's. I just bought like 5 packs of them today. They're tungsten infused, so they sink faster.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm gonna play around with those. I
Tungsten
haven't.
infused.
Yeah, I have never thrown a dice in a tournament, so I cannot confirm or deny if it's great. But I
But
mean,
you're
people
going
are.
to try it out.
Yeah. This off
What,
season, that's my bait. I'm playing with it.
what do you think that it's imitating? Do you think it's just maybe
Jellyfish.
a what? A,
Jellyfish.
a jellyfish? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Which I know we got. My theory was mussels.
Yeah.
So
Something
here
like
on
that. You
here
know.
on the Tennessee River, it gets really hot, and these mussels die off. And if you ever noticed, they float. And I thought that might be what these little dice, these fish think it's
Yeah. I
mussel
mean,
coming out.
it's something like that kind of a creature that they probably relate that bait to. Like, I
That's
don't think they're gonna be swimming around down there and be like, "Ooh, that is a jellyfish. Let me go bite it." They're just gonna be like, that is something that is kind of like a jellyfish looking thing. I need to go taste it.
right.
Yeah.
It's wild though because everyone talks about innovation in the tackle industry, whether it's these big glide baits or hard baits and stuff like that, and then here you go, here's just some fuzzy dice, and
Yeah. I
guys are
mean,
winning tournaments on it.
yeah, it's just something that's different they've never seen before that moves a lot of water underwater. So fish, they can't go like grab it with their hands and look at it. They have to bite it to see what it is. So I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah, bass are curious, and like I said, they ain't got hands. The only choice they've got is to put their nose on it. And
yeah,
smallmouth are way more curious than largemouth, so that's why I feel like it takes off in those smallmouth lakes.
for sure.
What was your go-to bait this year on your rookie campaign? Do you have one that just
Well,
outperformed the rest?
yeah, I mean the jig head minnow. My four top fives were on that, but I mean all the other lakes at Murray, I was throwing top water and just herring baits. I didn't catch any on a minnow there. I didn't even have it tied on. Florida, worm, and rattle trap were my main players. And Wheeler, it was a hollow body swim bait and a worm.
It's a
I'm a
pretty
big
good
worm
assortment.
guy. nowadays.
I'm gonna guess the deep crankbait's the one you really missed this year.
Yeah, I didn't really throw it. Last year though, first open of the year at Eufaula, Alabama. Holy crap! I felt like Kevin Van Dam 2015, freaking Kentucky Lake, just going to town.
Yeah, he he caught him so good here that one year, and it was funny. I went fishing like the week after, fished the same places and never got a bite. And I said, that dude caught every dang bass out of here.
He did.
Any other off the wall stuff you kind of like doing, or is you're just a cranking guy that adapted to do some forward facing? Or do you like fishing shallow?
I wouldn't say that's my favorite thing to do. I like to fish offshore because where I live, there's so many people that's fished, and I'm a younger guy, so people get mad about they have their same stretches they fish at every tournament. You know what I mean? And if you pull up on that area, there is a confrontation in the boat ramp parking lot about like, you're on my stretch. I've cranked that bank for 20 years. I'm like, well, I guess I'll go fish offshore where you don't fish. So that's kind of how I grew up fishing. Trying to just stay out of the way and find my own stuff and not ever trying to get into confrontation about that stuff. But it's just can't get away from it.
Yeah, that's everywhere, I feel like. When I was growing up, I had to learn to ledge fish. I was a boat dock, riprap, summertime guy, some shallow brush piles. And I got tired of getting whipped. And I had to go out there and learn to fish offshore. And we didn't have, number one, we did not have the mapping that's out now. I think that's the biggest change in technology that no one's really talking about. I had to use a paper map. And then I got an X15 Lowrance and had the first edition Navionics, but didn't have downscan. I had to use my normal 2D. And the way we figured out if there was bass on a ledge or not is if there was bait. I didn't make a cast if I didn't see no bait. If you roll up there and that bait was on the break or it was on the downturn, we'll get ready. You're going to catch a fish. But I had to learn that way. Triangulation. If you line up that pole with this point here and the third lock on the dam, you're on the stuff.
Yeah.
Old school. Mm-hmm. But
shoot, I had to do that too. You got to aim at that tallest tree over there on the bank, and that's the cast. You know what I mean? When I first started ledge fishing, I didn't have one of the, the 0.1 GPS antennas.
Right.
I didn't have that. So I would mark a place, and my freaking screen would be going like this. So I wouldn't know how to line up with the GPS. I would have to just keep casting until I caught one, and then that would be the cast. Throw your dang marker buoy out. I don't understand why everybody's complaining so much about all our electronics nowadays, because it's made it so much more efficient to fish offshore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, who wants to go back to throwing a marker buoy out and trying to line up a tree on the bank?
The only time I ever cussed anybody out on the water was over a marker buoy, so I hope we never go back to that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it on the Tennessee River, like back in the day, where I've pulled up to fish a point or a hump, and there'd be a marker buoy over there, and then some guy come run me off because he put the marker buoy out and that was his spot. Okay, I'll see, I'll leave, whatever.
Yeah. Again, going back to what makes your job easier. I'm very simple. Work smart, not hard. And, with Brad Crum, let's talk Vol football. Yeah, man, we're getting close. So I want to ask you about this. We got some more questions. The Dad Bod Angler says Tyler Williams cashed hella checks this season on a brown jig. What's Robert's favorite jig?
So Tyler is trying to get me on to the jig he throws, and it's still not my favorite jig, but my favorite kind of jig is a football jig, and I like different ones. Like, I've got a guy that makes them at Saudi Custom Tackle. Okay. That's my favorite, like big, giant, living rubber style football jig, like a 1 ounce version for ledge fishing. That's my favorite one for that. All around, anywhere I go, other football jig that's more finesse, Picasso football jig. I think it's the Aaron Martins.
Mm-hmm.
And then for smallmouth, I like the Kitech jig.
Yeah. So that little finesse Kitech jig
Mm-hmm.
is really, especially the tungsten one where it's Kitech. Now you got Beast Coast who makes a really good one.
Yep.
I think Picasso even makes a one.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about these little finesse football jigs? They smallmouth go crazy on. I personally would rather throw it because throwing a Ned rig makes me feel weird.
Yeah, I mean, I like a Ned rig too, honestly. I mean, that's my guilty pleasure. I'm not gonna lie. I've won a lot of money on Fort Loudon on a Ned rig.
Really?
Yeah, a lot.
What's the secret to the Ned? Because I do not feel comfortable at all sitting there with a little bitty bait.
The secret to the Ned is people try to throw too heavy of a weight to feel their bait. That is the secret to the Ned.
That's definitely my problem because I throw about the heaviest one you can get.
They want to think it's a shaky head, and it's not.
There we go. There's some good juice from Robert.
If you throw a Ned, it needs to be light, and you really hardly can feel it.
What pound test line you throw your Ned on? 6?
Shoot at 8 or 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Specific type of rod or anything?
Yeah, I throw a lighter rod, like a medium light.
Okay. Now I know what I'm going to do this winter. Here's a good question.
Yeah, it's juice.
John DeBose, what is your number 1 or number 2 ledge fishing tips to help the average guy be better?
The best ledge fishing tips I can give is it's not easy. First off, everybody that you see on TV running ledge holes, having their milk run and pulling up and catching 20 pounds, it's not like that. Like, I felt like I had to idle 4 or 5 days a week, just dumb crap around the house for 3 or 4 years until I felt like I had a confident enough milk run of enough places to do that at, if that makes sense. So the best advice I can give is really finding where those particular areas are. You know what I mean? Finding the fish is pretty much the best piece of advice. I mean, and then like once you find them, just keeping it simple instead of trying to throw a bait you've never thrown before. You know what I mean? You got to get confidence in certain baits and throw your confidence baits at them, or go finesse and try to catch them that way.
I think it's very important, especially this day and age. Everybody's on Tackle Warehouse, which I love, by the way. Use my link anytime they got a Labor Day sale. And they want to buy every new bait, and they want to go out and play with it, and that's cool. But ledge fishing, when you're learning something, really, I don't feel that's the time to tinker. Go to your confidence, go to a football jig, a deep crankbait, a big old worm, just drag it around. And get a few bites. Get confident in what you're doing. And I feel it's the same kind of way with forward-facing, learning it. If you go out there, you buy all the jig head minnows in the world and all the latest, greatest.
The fuzzy dice. I mean, if you never thrown it, like, I've had them all year, but I hadn't thrown it in a tournament because I don't really know what I'm doing with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a thing I learned in college. I mean, I would always try to watch the videos of how the guy won, and I would buy those baits, and I'd never thrown them. But then it would just hurt me in practice and at the tournament thinking this is what I need to do, but I've never done that. So, like, it's better to stick to what you know and find the fish.
It's funny you say that. So, I was in tackle sales for a long time, retail. It'd be not before the tournament. Guys would come in and go, I ain't never thrown this. I'm buying it. I'm going to throw it in the tournament tomorrow. And I'm like,
yeah,
really? I wouldn't do that. I ain't
never
never thrown this top water, but I'm tying it on in the morning. I'm tying what I got confidence on, 100%. It's not time to test new baits.
No, it ain't.
We got lots of good questions in here, man. I'm glad to have you in here. We got 150 people. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to go for about 30 more minutes, and then y'all can watch Hella Bass. So we're going to go rapid fire. What is your diet like pre-tournament while fishing tournaments? Bass for him. Do you have a pre-tournament diet?
No, I do not have a pre-tournament diet, as you can tell.
I've never heard that question. No one's ever asked that.
Normally, what I eat before tournaments is whatever Cody Huff or John Garrett's wife cooks us. So I eat that, and it consists of either some sort of pasta or casserole or something like that. And then during the tournament, I don't eat. I maybe drink a Mountain Dew on the way to the ramp, and then drink water and Gatorade on the water, and that's all the eating I do during a tournament day. During practice, Cody Huff and John Garrett's wives will shout out to them. They're awesome. They make us a little snack bag with like peanut butter and jelly, another sandwich, and some chips, you know. So in practice, I eat some of that. But
shout out to the wives, man. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, Gabe wants to know Gabe wants to know what's your favorite finesse jig trailer?
Probably the Yamamoto twin tail grub.
Old school, but I like it. I feel a lot of guys have forgotten about a twin tail grub. I used to use them all the time on a football jig.
Yeah. Man,
like before the pack of crawl got famous, it was a twin tail grub everywhere.
I caught the most bass probably on a finesse jig on a twin tail grub. That's my confidence trailer.
All right, Pickwick Pirate says, get him talking about how he fishes the clutch darter. So you got a little secret glide. Yeah, you got a little secret glide game.
I don't have a lot of experience with the clutch darter. I got one this year, so I've really only thrown it a handful of times. So I don't have really any tips or tricks with that. I'm more of a gizzard threadfin shad style glide bait guy. Like I've got all the Mike Buka stuff, the KGB, you know, stuff like that. And I really think it's key to change your rhythm and try to find the rhythm for that day, kind of like a old school jerk baiting where you
I'd agree 100%.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. And then just figuring out how to finish them. Finish them as in getting them to commit to biting your bait. That's the biggest key for glide baiting to me.
I'd agree, man. I've gotten so frustrated seeing these fish follow it, and I'm trying to do different things and not getting one to commit. Then one day you'll go and it's like they follow it and you pop the reel handle once and every one of them will bite it. So.
Exactly. So you got to,
but it's just like jerkbait fishing in the spring. One day they want it paused for 3 seconds. One day they just want you ripping it.
Yeah.
All right. Thoughts on the 2025 Classic, or is the Classic off limits now?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, right. Pretty positive, but yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I have no idea other than the lake is called Ray Roberts and Hank Cherry won there, I think, scoping with a jerkbait. It's about all I know. I haven't even never watched that Classic. But shoot, I did decent on Toledo Bend and I heard it's full of timber. So I don't know.
Got to feel good about it.
Maybe it's cool.
Texas.
I mean, I'm just excited to be fishing in the Classic, and it's in Texas where I could look into like a 10-pounder. So that's cool. At least I'm not fishing on Fort Loudon.
Although, would that be? Do you think if the Classic was on Loudon, if it was, do you think it'd be an advantage to you or not?
I don't really know. I mean, that's what is kind of sucks about living here. It's like some of these guys that have their home lake, like Jake Lawrence on Kentucky Lake, like it's actually good and you have good areas. This place out here, I mean, it changes by the hour.
Right.
Like since I hadn't been fishing out here this year as much because I've been going fishing on the elites. Like used to, I fished 4 nights, 5 nights a week out here. So I was dialed in on where they were and where they were going. But now I couldn't even tell you what's going on. So it's kind of like I'm a novice back here now. Like I hadn't even been out there but probably 7 or 8 times this year.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of pro guys that come from this area, I hardly ever would see them on the lake. They're just gone so much that they kind of forget what's going on down here on the big pond and whatnot. And Jake's one of the few guys
that ain't up north, catch 26 pounds of smallmouth. You don't want to go grind for 9 pounds at Fort Loudon.
Yeah. That would really spoil a man, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah.
Man, we got lots of good questions tonight, and I appreciate you, Robert, for coming on. We're learning a
Oh,
lot about you, and man, you love the fishing. All right, Critical Grady, longtime subscriber. Rob, have you fished the Yamato Nikki?
Yes, barely. I'm not an expert at all with that style of bait, but that's another thing with the dice. That I gotta start tying on and just seeing what happens with it. I kind of have a. I'm good friends with Kenta Kimura,
Yeah.
and he's kind of taught me a little bit on how to fish that style of bait. So I'm gonna put it more in my arsenal. I think I've caught a couple fish this year, just not in tournament or practice. That I've just went fun fishing. I've tried to throw it and figure out how to really fish it effectively. And I feel like every time I catch one, it's just luck. So I don't really know how to fish it yet.
I
Like
heard
I'll
that.
throw it on a deep school and one will eat it before it hits the bottom or something like that. So I don't really learn anything yet. So I can't really say much about it. But there is a time and a place, and I think those baits will be more effective here in the future.
All right, Sean Dow's question. Rob G, when is the last time and how often do you throw a lipless crankbait? LOL.
So at Harris Chain, I weighed in. I fished 3 days there, and I probably weighed in 9 of the 15 bass I caught that week on a lipless crankbait. So I'm a big lipless guy. Like some of the biggest bass I've ever caught came on a lipless. And you should see my deep 3,700 box full of them. I mean, I've got them all, and I
You
love
got a favorite?
them. Yeah, the Excalibur.
Oh man, I'll have to remember that next time I score a bunch. I'll have to hit you
Yeah,
up and say, "Hey, I got some."
yeah, I'll buy them from you.
Do you feel the old Excaliburs are better than the new Booyah? Because I'm going to tell you, because I work for Pradco,
I
they're
don't
the
know.
same bait,
Yeah, I think they are the same bait,
but
but I think
anglers
the
don't have the same
Excalibur,
confidence.
I think the Excalibur has some sort of magic, an aura around the bait because they have the X50 or XR75 on them. So it's just got a little bit more style points, and fish really can run up there and read it. And they bite when they see the Excalibur, they bite it.
Yeah, that's what I like to tell people. That way, I can charge $50 a piece for them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bass Fanatic wants to know: you ever throw a super heavy bladed jig offshore?
I have tried it, but like I said, I'm not. I don't have it tied on. No, like that's
Right.
not something. I mean, I still have some, but I'm not. I throw a 3/4 in deep grass, but the 1.25 ounce on schools, I haven't ever really figured that bait out because I'm a scrounger guy.
Oh, you're a little Jake Lawrence guy.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about winning some money. That bait has won a lot of money on the Tennessee River.
Yep, I
So
won a lot on
what do you
Fort
think
Lauderdale.
about the scrounger? Why do you think it's such a good bait out here?
To be honest, it's probably the most natural looking besides strolling a jig head minnow. It's very natural for a river lake, like a Tennessee River lake. That I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the bait coming up a ledge or something, your bait like your scrounger doing that little tight shimmy. I mean, that rolling action it gives, and like I like to fish it where like once it starts rising high, I kill it and it goes back to the bottom, and then kick it up, scuff the bottom a little bit, then start making it wobble down there again. I mean, I've caught some big bags doing that, and that's my favorite bait probably.
Are you a jerky J guy, or do you have something else you put back there?
No, I throw jerky J.
5-inch?
Yes.
You know I quit making them.
Really?
Yeah. I've got about 10 packs sitting behind me. I might retire. I might send my kid to college on those things.
That sucks. I did know they stopped making the good ones, and like all the ones I bought like recently, they rip like crazy. Used to, I could have one on and it would last me like 2 weeks, and I could catch like 50 fish on one if I glued it on and rigged it straight.
Jake showed me, a glue trick and using a toothpick between the plastic and the hook to keep them last. But no, I got on Tackle Warehouse. Somebody was messaging me a couple months, said, dude, you got any 5-inch jerky J's? I said, yeah, I got about 20 packs. He said, I'll give you $10 a pack. And I'm like, really? And because I bought them, my Walmart had them on clearance for $1 a pack. So I bought a bunch. Not that I'd ever use them all.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to. Hey, if anybody in the comments wants to sell me some, hit me up.
I know a guy that might could send you some.
Oh.
Maybe if you help me out with some tickets to a Vols game or maybe some VIP access, I believe you could get hooked up on a lot of baits.
Heck yeah, that's what works for me.
I got Bo Stevens in here, a good friend of mine. Bo's there from the Knoxville area.
Bo Stevens, is that you said?
Oh, Bo Stevens. You know Bo?
Yeah, he worked for Icon. That Bo.
He worked. Yeah, that Bo worked for
I know
Icon.
him. What did he say?
He said, yes, Robert would have an advantage at Loudon. Don't be fooled. So,
whatever.
Great guy. I talked to Bo maybe once every 2 or 3 months. And, dude, he's got it going on with Icon.
For sure.
Super nice guy, man. He's been on BTL. He's been on the Baitman show. We hung out at the East Tennessee Fishing Show.
Heck yeah, you go to there much? I'm there about every year. I am there every year.
Yeah, so I really enjoy it. You got Rob Cochran there, Jawjackers, got them balsa baits there. Mike Buca's there. Yeah. I get to talking too much, and I don't ever see the whole show. I'm sure you're working too. But
I'm working McKee's booth usually.
Right. So Matthew, let's talk about Matthew for a second. I heard you made a bet with him that if you made the Elite Series, he would have to sponsor you.
Yes, that is facts. And he held up to his bargain. So now hopefully I've got him locked in for life. So hopefully anytime I ever wrap my boat or have a jersey on, McKee Outdoors will be on there.
Well, he's a good dude, and I buy a lot of stuff from him. I've sent a lot of people his way. Awesome store. I've actually never been in there.
No way.
No, never been in there.
You gotta come check it out.
I get tons of packages from him. I'll say that. And Matthew's really good about shipping quick. So, I'm affiliated with Tackle Warehouse, but I'm telling you, sometimes it's happening a lot now where these independent shops are getting stuff before the big box stores or TW. For example, the Teckle Buzz Baits. Dude, he had them a month and a half before anybody.
Yeah, he was the first store to have them.
So I ordered them. I had them in 2 days.
Yeah, he's got an allotment right now that I went over there today and hung out for a couple hours. He just got in a brand new batch of custom KGB Chad Shads that weren't even dropped. So Matt has to deal with Kevin that he sends him 50 to 100 glide baits that he custom paints, and they're just Matt's custom run that he sells to his customers. So that's he's got it going on. He's got one of the best tackle stores I've ever seen, and he's actually working on creating a website right now, so it's going to be similar to like the Hookup Tackle, so it'll be worldwide.
Yeah, I talked to him about building one, and I'll be honest, I just got way too busy, and I need to talk to him again. I feel like
it should be open sometime this fall.
Well, dude, I'm telling you, when he opens a website, he's going to be really, really busy. And he's going to have to hire somebody because they're going to be shipping baits all day long.
No doubt. I mean, he already is
in the comments here. But shout out to Matthew. It says, these are lies. Thank y'all. No, he's a good dude. Every time I see him at the Knoxville show, it's high fives and hugs. Good dude. And again, he's a Vol. He's going to them Vol games and everything.
For sure.
All right, here we go. Critical Graving. When will we see a Robert G signature series?
Shoot, I don't know. I mean, I'm in the works to, up in my sponsorship game. So hopefully here soon. I mean, I don't know whether it'd be some sort of bait or some sort of rod. But, I hope to eventually have something with my name on it.
Well, if you keep, as Captain Ron says, if you keep talking with your rod, a lot of people are going to be listening, and you'll have something pretty soon. Let's see, going through some more questions here. I like this one too. Alumni Nathan says, Rob, I think it's cool you don't hide that you're a Christian. And do you go to church?
Yes, I do.
I think that's awesome too. Something a lot of people don't talk about. I'm a big believer. If you're a Christian,
Yep.
don't hide it, and you put it out there. And we know, for me, I get to do stuff like this. I got a good job. I'm thankful for the Lord above.
No doubt.
You guys are getting to fish for a living. Y'all are very blessed.
Exactly. Very, very blessed. And yeah. So actually, a little background. I mean, I go to church, and I always have. I actually went to a Christian school growing up too. So growing up, I kind of thought that was normal. You know, everybody was a Christian. You know, I didn't really know different.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got outside of, grew up, I was like, well, dang, this needs. I mean, I definitely know why people need to shed light on this. I mean, so that's why I try to take that stance and, try to spread the gospel a little bit.
I got a lot of respect for it. And there's a lot of anglers out there that are the same way. I mean, the Fishers of Men tournament trail is absolutely huge. And it's just great for you as a person and great for everyone. And I'm not out here preaching.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do that. But, if you get a chance to go to church, go. If you don't want to go, I'm not going to force you to it.
Yep.
Sean Dow, Rob G, do you swallow your dip juice or do you spit it out? You on the Zen train?
I'm a Zenner now.
All right, so I'm going to tell you this. I dipped, and these guys that are old school Baitman fans know I used to have the biggest hog in ever.
Yeah.
And I quit. It's been 2.5 years since I've had a dip. I went straight to Zen. I quit Zen now. I'm doing the Rogue.
Really?
Yeah, try Rogue.
Yeah.
The packets are bigger.
I'm just a Zen man. Can't lie. I've tried the Ons, the Rogues, but I always go back to the same old Citrus Zen, number 6.
Yeah, it got really hard to get. My wife's brother-in-law or something, I don't know, one of her relatives works for Zen.
Really?
And when everyone's freaked out and making TikTok rumors about the Factor on Fire, this is what he says. He said, this is 100% true. Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan on the podcast started talking about doing Zen.
Mm-hmm.
He said they expected to get like a 40 to 50% boost. It was almost 600% in sales, and they just could not keep up. Nothing caught on fire. It wasn't illegal.
I got
It's
you.
just supply and demand. But I went to Rogue, and I've stayed with it.
I've been on them for, I don't know, 3 years, I'd say.
Well, I'm glad that I quit dipping. It was a nasty habit. Now, there are times I get to the gas station, they ain't got no Zen. I'm like, man, I could probably get me some Grizzly and get away with it. But I don't. Let's talk about this, and we're going to jump off here. It's about time. We've been on for about an hour and a half. Let's talk about the belly rub. Everybody's talking about the Robert G. belly rub.
The belly pat.
So when are you going to have some belly pat merch? And where did this thing originate?
Dude, honestly, I have no earthly clue. That wasn't like I did not come up with that in my head and be like, okay, I'm going to try to brand this. Really, the Bassmaster guys just caught on to it because I guess I kept slapping the belly of the smallmouth, But I mean, I am going to have to try to get some merch here soon. I really liked my Heisman pose on live. I mean, I kind of want to get a Heisman shirt of me holding a big smallmouth. That would be pretty cool. But,
I would buy that. If it's an orange shirt, I'm 100% buying it.
Exactly. A little checkerboard action. I was going to do one that says like football time in Tennessee, but, I didn't know.
Ooh,
I didn't know if the Alabama and Kentucky fans would buy that. So I might just keep it, just a little orange.
I would, if Tennessee beats Alabama, which I think they're going to this year again. I know they'll beat Kentucky because water is wet. That's when you bust. That's when you bust that out. You drop them. You should drop them every time the Vols beat one of those opponents.
But yeah, I definitely. If you guys have any recommendations or, ideas where I need to come up with a good belly pat, either hat or shirt. I don't know exactly what I want to do yet with that, but it's going to come soon.
I like it. It just ad-libbed and it's caught on fire.
Yeah, like I just was doing that because up there at Champlain, they're all like the same length. And some of them are real skinny. They look like Southern smallmouth. And other ones are they look like they've been eating gobies, even though there's no gobies in that lake, and they're just fat. So all the fat ones, I would just smack it on the belly and be like, yeah, that's a good one, because look how fat it is. And that's kind of how it started. So then, and the camera guy would be like, you need to pat its belly. They were liking that back in the studio. I was like, all right.
Well, hey, everyone's got to find a niche. Everyone's got to find the way to brand themselves.
Yeah, like I didn't just come up with that and be like, oh, this is my thing. Like Jacob Wheeler and their ding and all that. I didn't like sit back one day and be like, oh, if I ever get on live, I'm going to smack it on the belly. But I mean, I guess I just did it enough to where they're like, this guy always slaps him on the belly. What is he doing? And I guess it stuck, kind of like, I don't know, Jimmy Houston kissing one or something.
Right. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to let you go, and we're going to talk a little bit of college football right now. Well, actually, Frank Scalish has a question. Frank, I want to thank you for joining the Baitman stream. I watch you on BTL all the time. I need to get you on here as well. Here's a last question from a viewer. Frank Scalish says, how much of a role is hair going to play for you moving forward? I guess he's talking about hair jigs.
I mean, I've always had a hair jig tied on the past, I don't know, all the time I've been fishing offshore. And this year I kind of got a guy that does an incredible work, juices jigs. He ties his crappie. He was a crappie jig tire, and I pretty much reached out to him and be like, hey man, I have an idea of like a bass crappie jig, because I like to crappie fish, and I've caught a lot of fish on a crappie jig where they wouldn't bite it, like a jig head minnow style Bobby Garland. So I switched over to a hair jig and started stroking them. So that was my idea. And I was like, you need to make this with a bass size hook, like a 2 or 3/0, something you can catch a largemouth on. And I mean, that's where the idea came from. He literally tied exactly the vision I had in my head. So that was awesome. And it's caught me several key fish this year, and some of my top 10s I've had at Smith Lake and at Champlain. I mean, I caught keepers I've weighed in that got me to getting second and third on that hair jig, because they wouldn't think about eating anything else I even tried to throw at. And I wasn't just throwing a jig head minnow at them, but that hair jig got bites when nothing else did.
That's awesome. Hair jig to me, it's like old school is cool again. You know what I mean? Like, it was so old school. Like, it was kind of out of style when I was growing up ledge fishing. It had its peak there in the early to late 80s, the preacher jig. And then it kind of died off once everyone figured out, man, you catch these things on a crankbait and a Carolina rig and a big worm. And then KVD busted out here.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. After when KVD did that, that's one of my favorite bites of all time that I could get on. I mean, I don't ever, to me, everybody's like, that hasn't really ledge fished much, is like, oh, you need to get a big hair jig with big long hair jig, white hair jig, and you can go crack them. To me, I've never really gone out there and cracked them like I have on a crankbait or a scrounger offshore on a hair jig. It's just a bait that is like a finesse style approach that you can catch some absolute giants on, but you're not going to just go out there and wax 100 on it. You know what I mean? Like they don't just absolutely stroke it, but for some reason, it always feels like the biggest one bites it. And
well, I'll tell you what,
about it.
Wherever sells juice jigs, let me know. I'll link it in the description here. I know they had a drop tonight.
Yeah, Juice's jigs had a drop.
Yeah, and I'm in here streaming. I'm a bait freak, and I would definitely go over there and buy some to try it out. I love a hair jig, but you're right. It's not a search and bait. It's not a mop bait like a crankbait where you can just crush the whole school. But what it will do, it's kind of like that big spoon. When they're tough to bite, it will pull out the biggest fish out of that school for some reason. All right, we're about to wrap it up. Let's hit it with a little bit of ball talk here. So when are we going to get a Nico Iamalava and Robert G in a bass boat together?
I don't know. That'd be something I'll have to come up with. I don't know how I'll get in touch with him, but that would be cool. I'd like to get somebody, big time like that, some big Tennessee ball, like, I don't know, him or Coach Heupel or Tony Vitello or Brick Barnes.
I bet Tony V in a bass boat would be amazing.
Yeah,
if I'm Bassmaster, I'm pushing that.
Yeah,
like, or Tony V and Robert
even Morgan Wallen. I'd like to take him fishing.
Oh yeah,
that'd be cool.
So Renegade Marine last year had Morgan Wallen's Triton for sale.
Really?
And believe it or not, it was purple.
Really?
Purple and silver metallic flake.
That's interesting.
All right, Saturday, big game, season opener.
Yeah, playing UT Chattanooga.
What's the score going to be?
I'm going to say 52-10.
Fair enough.
52-10 or 52-14 or 52-17, something like that.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run a little contest over on my Facebook page. We'll do it Friday afternoon. I'll find some baits. We'll scrounge up some baits and make a little giveaway. If you can predict the score of the Vols UT Chattanooga opener, somebody will win them a little bait package. And when I jump off here, give me about 5 minutes. I'm going to do a new live stream. I got to do a giveaway from last week. So you left a comment on the video. You're entering a giveaway. Robert, we've been on for an hour and a half. My buddy Hella Bass is going to start a stream. And I encourage everybody to go over to Hella Bass's channel and watch. Dude, I love having you on here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
I kind of just ad-lib. I don't take a lot of notes or anything. Awesome. And anytime, you're more than welcome to come back on here. You get an idea, say, hey, I want to talk about some spring balsa cranking. I might get my buddy Epic Eric on here. He loves the balsa, and he'll be busting out stuff you may have never even seen. But
yeah, probably not. I mean, I'm not as big as I once was in it. Now I kind of just use baits I can get, more readily available.
Yeah, that's the only problem about the old school stuff. You ain't gonna find no little pitties.
No.
You might find some at a flea market. Someone don't know what they got, but you ain't gonna walk into many shops and be able to find some of this stuff. But Robert,
you gotta know some people to get those. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Robert, I enjoyed having you again.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I'm a big fan.
Appreciate it.
Go Big Orange.
Go Big Orange. Go Vols. Love it.
All right. Thank you, Robert.